Welcome viewers to round 11 of the Star Mazda Australian Championship, Season 4. We're coming to you live tonight from Summit Point Raceway, which is a free track on the iRacing service. With me, as usual, in the box tonight is Andrew Gaines. Andrew, how are you this evening?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Trent. Geez, what can I say about this race? The last couple of races I've said it's going to be some really good racing. I'm going to call this one interesting. It's still going to be good racing, but it's going to be really interesting. A small track. We've never been here before. Notoriously bumpy. It's going to throw down a real challenge for a lot of the drivers.
Yeah, just on that bumpiness you spoke about, a lot of the drivers have been talking how there's a lot of pogo and bounce in the car this week. It's quite a bumpy track. I did joke around saying they've replaced the tyres with basketballs for this week, but it's certainly going to sort of put the cat amongst the pigeons, I guess, and it's just about finding the smoothest line around here, and it's about getting that flow and maintaining speed in the slower speed sections.
Yeah, that's right. And I was just chatting to one of the G&T drivers. He mentioned that he may pit early, and that's probably a good idea because if you're caught up in traffic around this track, you're going to be held up. You will lose a lot of time. So maybe get that out of the way, come out in some clean and put some fast laps down.
Yeah, we do have a lot of drivers in the pre-race and qualifying servers tonight. Total of 58 drivers between the two splits tonight. So 29 cars around here for race one. For split one, sorry, so it should be pretty tight with that many cars. And I just want to give a big shout out to Craig Edwards, who has done an incredible amount of laps this week. He did almost 200 laps in official practice on Monday, and that's paid off because he put a sizzling time in his qualifying session.
Mate, you're reading my mind or you're stealing my notes. I'm not too sure which one, but I was going to say exactly the same thing. It's obviously paid off for him. He's done well. I think I haven't seen the qualifying times yet, but I know he's put the car up the front somewhere. So that's 184, 200 laps of practice. Can't go wrong there.
From memory, it was like a 107.6 was his qualifying time, and it's about 2.5 tenths clear from second place. So, yeah, it's a massive gap when you're considering how close the times, pretty much from about second or third back, really aren't covered by much. Might just take us through the track layout as it sits. Summit Point Raceway in the USA. Conditions are partly cloudy tonight. Slight headwind down the front straight of about 5 kilometres an hour. Humidity is at 77%. Air temp's 23. Track temp's starting to get up there at a warm 37 degrees. That'll test these guys too. Most of the races this season have been on the cooler track, so the slightly warmer track it could be a bit slippery at points throughout this race.
Yeah, look, it's going to be some really close racing. We saw some fantastic racing at Phillip Island last week with Marcelo taking out the win by the smallest of margins. A little bit of controversy, which we won't go into. I think that's been settled, but great racing right down to about probably 10th spot. It was a fantastic race to watch.
Yeah, it's quite hard. We did sort of see in the highlights after during the drive interviews, there was another pretty vicious battle pack going on. I think it was around 10th position with about 4 or 5 cars as well. So it was good to see that no matter what position you're in, you're fighting. But yeah, Phillip Island has traditionally provided some pretty good racing in this series, and it certainly didn't disappoint last week. Really looking forward to Suzuka as our season finale for next week as well.
Yeah, second last round of the championship. Championship's still open. I mean, it's something's going to have to go really bad with Gary's last two races for him to lose that championship lead, but we know it can happen. So it'll be really interesting to see how it goes. Craig Edwards obviously did his 184, 200 laps or whatever it was. He's gone for his maiden win. He's never had a win here. He's been itching on the heels of people that have won. He's been up there at the pointy end, but hasn't really quite got that top step of the podium.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure that's something that he definitely wants to change. With the amount of laps that he's put out around here, he should know pretty well where he can make the speed on his competitors. So hopefully that turns into a good race for him. Apologies to the viewers, I haven't organised the point score table to show you for this round, but um, our leader Gary Hamilton does have a 45 point gap from first to second. So with the current point system, we're looking like a Mark Winterbottom type situation where he'd have to have a pretty dramatic incident to finish that title hope. We've got 29 cars in this field. Even if he does crash and he uses up all his fast repairs, as long as he stays in the race and he can, he's in the pits receiving repairs, he can still score points. So yeah, it's looking good for him at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, it is actually 35 points, if my sums are correct. And obviously, Marcelo's in second place. And close to them is Riley Preston, Mark Rayner in fourth, David Jellings in fifth, and Scott Goodman in sixth. I mean, if any of those top drivers have a bad race, I'm pretty sure most of them have used up their drop rounds. So we could still see the championship change.
Yes, that's a good point. So I think some of the first, second, and third, they can't afford any real bad results. But further down the table, it's certainly on for young and old. As I will take us through our grid. As we see, Craig Edwards on pole with 107.686 and Gary Hamilton second place 107.927. So massive gap there at the front of the field. Riley Preston in third, Troy Burgess fourth, and Michael McCabe in fifth position. Justin Strickland in sixth, David Pegler seventh, Joshua Rogers, newcomer tonight from All Star Motorsports, Mitchell McLeod in ninth, and Hayden Donovan in 10th place. Dylan Francis, G&T Racing, with AJ Bear in 12th. Marcelo Rivera, we're not used to seeing him that far down the field. 13th. Jason Bentz, 14th. Damien Carr in 15th. Scott Newton, 16th. Martin Slavasi, Joshua Burden, usually in race control. TJ Brown and Paul Tajabara ran at 20. I'm not going to get through all these names, sorry everybody, as lights are about to go green. And we're off racing. Looks like a few people got a few slow starts there, but I'm not sure who that is in the middle. Off to a magnificent start. Troy Burgess, by the looks of it, made a ripper start straight up the middle.
I was expecting a little bit more carnage around that first corner as everyone sort of settles in, but they've all done well to get through there.
Yeah, that's a good point. It was spoken about a few times this week within the team that turn one was probably going to be a bit of a carnage fest, but looks like everyone's got through there quite cleanly at the moment. As we've got Craig Edwards has managed to hold on to that first place and is leading the field with Gary Hamilton close behind. Michael McCabe had a good start too from 5th place, I think he was on the grid. He's up to 3rd place now with Riley Preston right behind him and Troy Burgess just a few car lengths back from that.
Yeah, we've seen Michael McCabe hit the second split a few times. We know he's a first split runner. He's obviously had some trouble with his qualifying results, and when he is in the second split, he usually runs away with it, makes it look so easy. So it's really good to see him in the first split. I think we're going to have a really good battle up the front. Obviously, with Craig and Gary, I think we're going to see a great battle because these two are super fast, and with the I guess the practice that Craig's had and the natural raw speed that Gary's had, and he was in practice as well. I think those two are going to have a massive battle.
Yeah, we're just looking back there at Mitchell McLeod had a bit of a moment coming on the back straight and lost the position to Josh Rogers, and now he's got Marcelo Rivera all over the back of him as he tries to make a move. Oh, closes the door. It was very close. Your contact was not made there. As we can see up the front here, Craig Evans and Gary Hamilton have started to break away from Riley Preston in 3rd position. Yeah, these two, yeah, quite quick, and if they're clever, they'll make their way and just not fight. Looks like we've got our first pit stopper too. No, we've had a few people pit actually.
Look like Hayden Dodman might have had an off track or an incident. He's currently in position 26.
That was Troy Burgess from our top 5 we saw peeling into the pits in the background of that shot before. He's now on his way back out after stopping for 10.8 seconds.
I think Marcelo's sort of played his cards early. He's just come out of the pits as well. Probably wanted to get out of the traffic, felt he was getting held up. Obviously, that's going to put him at the back of the field, but he's got that pit stop out of the way and some clean air in front of him.
It was a bit of a slow stop for Marcelo. 13 seconds it's got here, so he might have lost a little bit of time, but as you said, could be in clear air, and it could be a good strategic move for him later in the race. We've seen it happen in previous races where guys pit early, and then at the end of the race they sort of just appear out of nowhere because of that early pit stop.
It's going to be very hard for him to catch Gary. Gary's obviously in the slipstream of Craig, and all he has to do is sit behind him, and he'll probably pull up a little bit more of a gap. But with the mindset, what are you thinking at the moment if you were Gary? Would you go for the win, or you'd be happy with second? Because obviously getting as many points as you can, even just finishing second, obviously going to give him a little bit more of a buffer. Marcelo's back down the field, but you don't want to jeopardise that, especially with only one round to go.
Well, I think it's in the back of everyone's mind. Everyone always wants to win. Still only on lap 4 of 32, so still early days yet. So I think Gary's going to be quite happy to sit behind Craig here, unless he feels that he's being held up, which I don't think he really is at the moment. As you can see there, the last lap times there, Craig Edwards with a 107.8 and Gary Hamilton with a 107.9. But Riley Preston right behind them, pretty much matching Gary's time, but just 0.02 of a second quicker. So they're not gaining time, they're not losing time at the moment, and that's probably quite happy for Gary Hamilton to sit there for now.
Yeah, he's in a really good position, and we've talked about it earlier on in the season. It's sometimes in certain tracks, it's a lot easier to sit behind someone and go faster. I've just seen someone have a big crash in the back there.
Yeah,
Was that Riley Price? Riley Preston?
sorry, that's Riley Preston. We'll go back and have a look at the replay of that one. He must have got a little bit wide coming off the last turn there. So here he is, just coming up to the last turn now. Yeah, he's dipped the slightest wheel off, and sort of hit a little bit of a dip on the curb there, I think. So that's thrown him out of the world, basically. As we come back to the live pictures, and yeah, we still see that's going to really take the pressure off these two leaders at the front. They're going to want to not battle at all now, I don't think.
I think we're going to see a good battle between Mitchell McLeod and Joshua K. Rogers. They're very close in fifth and sixth position.
It looks like Mitchell's got that position back. We did see Josh earlier did get past Mitchell, but he's now made that pass to get past. New feature viewers might know, our regular viewers might realise, is we've now got previous lap times up on the driver comparisons. So we can see there that Mitchell McLeod's last lap was a 108.2 and Josh Rogers was a 108.7. So the pass must have happened on that lap because there's half a second difference between them.
Great battle for 7th, 8th and 9th with AJ Bear, Mark A. Rayner and Paul Giles Rabara. It's going to be really close. These guys are swapping positions every lap about, so that's for 6th, 7th and 8th.
Yeah, we did see some battle a bit early on with Grant Hines was battling with Joseph Falcomata, I think it was. And yeah, this battles I think is going to continue throughout most of the race.
Yeah, some of these drivers have just come on leaps and bounds, haven't they? I mean, they've been in the series for a little while. Some of them were always second split drivers. Now they're battling for top 10 positions in split one. So just that little bit of practice, I guess having confidence about the people you're racing with is they're giving you the ability to push a little bit harder as well. So these guys are really trying what they can do.
You're just having a look at Scott Goodman, down in 21st position at the moment. He has pitted. He is the 7th car in line of those who have pitted. Just look at the driver profile of Scott Goodman here. Drives for KRF Motorsports. Currently sitting 6th in the championship. He's got Martin Slavasi right behind him there with 12 points difference. A bit of a gap to David Jellings in 5th place, but again, there's really not much in it. So David Jellings and Martin Slavasi are the ones that Scott will probably be racing this round and the next. So we can see he's had 3 top 10s, including a 6th place at Road Atlanta. So we'll keep an eye on Scott as this race goes on.
Yeah, had probably one of his unfavourable results last week at Phillip Island. I think he came about 19th in split one. Had a few issues there. That's probably not a position that he's used to being in.
No, that's right. Obviously, his consistency is paying off with his 6th position in the championship. So he'll be on for a good result here tonight, hopefully. We'll have a look back at the front here. Craig's put a bit of a gap now between himself and Gary Hamilton. The gap's out to a second. Those laps that he's done obviously are paying off, as he'd know what the tyres do over a run. He'll know exactly how this car is going to handle through the entirety of this race. So, and from Gary Hamilton back to Michael McCabe in 3rd, we've got an almost 4-second gap.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see Craig get a win. I mean, obviously he's put in a lot of effort to get where he is today, especially in this race. And this race being such a difficult track and one that we haven't been to before, it'd be nice for him to get his maiden win here.
Yeah, true. I think a car we're gonna have to keep an eye on would definitely be Troy Burgess. He is the first car that has pitted, and he's only 27 seconds behind the leaders. We do have a pretty short pit lane here. I'm not sure what the transit time actually is, but the pit lane itself is actually quite short, and the stop's usually about 10 seconds. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to keep an eye on that gap.
It's very interesting as well. Craig's a privateer for anybody that's interested. I don't know if he's a privateer by choice, but yeah, he's not with any of the teams, so he's doing well.
Very true. We're just having a look at lap time here. Troy Burgess with a 108.165 on his last lap, and our leaders doing a little bit quicker than that. So that's what these guys will want to keep doing on that lap. Craig did a 107.9 and Gary's done a 107.8. So yeah, these guys are still lapping incredibly quick up the front. And we'll look now at the battle between here Joseph Falcamara, Grant Hines, and Phil Gadd for 9th, 10th, and 11th positions.
Sean Watts has just gone in for his compulsory pit stop.
Josh Burden, we can see here currently in 16th place from JFF Racing. He's normally our race controller, but he thought he'd have a bit of a stab tonight in the Star Mazda, so it's good to see him out there having a bit of a crack.
Yeah, just looking at the team championship, I think the Team X-Ray boys, Strickland and Rayner, are going to be really hard to beat for the end of the season. They've just been super consistent, not right up there getting the first and seconds, but they've just been in the top tens or just out of the top tens, with both of them just about finishing every race, I believe. So just that consistency in the teams event has got them a little bit of a buffer. But down the order to the top, the four. Position 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. It's really, really close, so it's anybody's game.
And we can see Justin Strickland now on screen, currently in 14th, but he is 3rd of the cars who have pitted. So he's sitting in a fairly strong position. Mark Rayner, who has not pitted yet, he's currently in 7th place. He's 20 seconds off the lead at the moment, though, so I'm sure after pit stops he will drop down, but he should be still in a pretty strong point scoring position. Just watching again, Grant Hines, Joseph Falcamara and Phil Gadd. I don't think the gap between these cars has really gone over half a second, so they're certainly fighting close. They're not really making ground on each other, so nice close racing for these guys, and I'm sure they'll be enjoying themselves.
Yeah, they're coming up to Paul Tarjavara as well, and those sort of guys are around the same sort of skill level. So it's going to be a really interesting race to see those four towards the end. I've said it before, look, Paul Tarjavara and Fokamata, they've been second split drivers before, and now they're battling for a top 10 position in split one.
Yeah, it's good to see, and with the amount of drivers that we had participating tonight, 58 cars, um, it's pretty much no matter what your skill level, you're almost guaranteed to have a race with someone of similar ability. I think that's a big draw card for the drivers that do enjoy coming here, as well as the clean and general friendly nature, I guess, of the racing. They race hard, but these are open wheelers. They're not tin tops. They can't really rub panels, so it really does come down to etiquette and allowing space where space is needed. You can't really sort of push and shove and squeeze like in other series you might be able to do with the tin tops. So yeah, it's definitely uh, good racing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. In the tin tops, we've seen it before in iRacing, we've seen it before in real life. You can maybe give somebody a little love tap and put them out of shape and go on by. You do that in these cars, you break your front wing, you bend your steering. So you're not only taking the guy out in front or ruining his race, but you're potentially ruining your own as well.
Exactly. Back up front, lap times have sort of backed off a little bit. 108.2 that time by for Craig Edwards, but Gary Hamilton's still on a 107.9. So I'm not sure if Craig made a mistake or not on that last lap, but yeah, Gary's brought that gap down to 6 tenths of a second, but gap back to third, now out to 5.8. So these guys are certainly pushing on and pretty much in a league of their own at the moment, and will be certainly the cars to watch coming into the race.
Yeah, I think we've seen it in a few races where they seem to pull, or whoever's in front of Gary seems to pull a little bit of a gap, but then Gary sort of comes back. And I don't think it's because of the draft. I think Gary's just got that super consistency down where others might make a small mistake here and there, which will cost them, as little as a hundredth or a tenth. And Gary's just super consistent and he makes that time up.
That's exactly right. It's all well and good being fast, um, but if you can't do that consistently, then you're not really going to win races. And we've seen Gary had a couple of race wins this season, and well deservedly so, due to his consistency. That's probably has been Craig Edwards' Achilles heel a little bit. We've seen the speed, but occasionally he's made some mistakes that have cost him some positions. So this is probably his best chance to try and get that race win that he's so sought after.
Yeah, and I think those mistakes have been pressure mistakes. I don't think they're his driving errors or he's just making silly mistakes. It's pressure errors. Whenever he's made an error, he's always been in the heat of a battle, and it's been lap after lap after lap, and that builds up when you're driving these cars.
Oh, it definitely does. Been in that position myself a few times, and it certainly does get to you. Eventually, it can, and you will get slight mistakes. Will come in, and it's purely from pressure. It's not because you've suddenly had a lack of skill or anything like that. It's just you're doing qualifying laps. That's what driving these cars in these races is like. It's just like doing 32 laps of qualifying tonight. That's how hard that you have to drive, and the competition level that these guys are facing.
And for the viewers out there, these cars are all identical. We've got a fixed setup in the series, so you can't change anything on the cars. No gear ratios, no aero, no tire pressures, no wings, nothing like that. It's all the same. So it's coming down just to the driver and maybe a little bit of pit strategy, and of course, good old luck.
Yeah, we have seen pit strategies work in the past. I think that's a bit of a strength of this series as well as the pit window is absolutely massive. So it certainly opens up. Excuse me. Certainly opens up scope to play with pit stops and strategy and that sort of thing. As we just see Simon Fiegel and Damien Carr battling. Looks like Damien's just got pushed wide a little bit there. Um, I forgot what I was. Oh yeah, the pit strategies. Literally, the rule is as soon as the lights go green, you can make your pit stop. We've actually seen a
Craig
driver.
Edwards to the pits. Craig Edwards just coming out of the pits now. Joshua K. Rogers is also in the pits.
Alright, we just saw Craig Edwards coming out of the pits. He is ahead of Troy Burgess, who, there you can see the air gap back to him. It's quite a large one, so yeah, Craig's definitely in a pretty good position here, and we'll see how long Gary Hamilton stays out for. He tends to stay out for a lot longer than most drivers. Yeah, as I was saying, the pit stop strategy, as soon as green goes, we had Dave Oliver at Oran Park a few seasons ago. His grid stall was actually before or after, depending on which way you look at it, the pit entry. So the second the light went green, he actually ducked straight into the pits. So he hadn't even turned a lap, and that was well within the rules. And that actually benefited him, and he started well down the field. And using that pit strategy, it boosted him right up the results. So you can pretty much run the full length of your tank, which generally I think gets you about 2/3 to 3/4 of race distance, or you can pit as early as you need to. So the variation in pit stops is quite large.
Yeah, and if we can just talk a bit about the tyres on these cars now, I haven't raced these cars for a while, but I do a bit of the practice. I don't feel that the tyres go off. You can do a whole race. Some people do take on the front tyres because I don't think it's any more time than it is to refuel in some cases. What are your thoughts on changing tyres in these particular races?
Yeah, it's about that. Fuel stop is around about the 10-second mark. That's usually where we see um, the fuel marker, and two tyre stop, two tyre change is about the same. So some drivers, as you said, opt to take the fronts or the rears, depending on how they go. I personally, in the past, I think it was season 2 at Oran Park, I felt that the front tyres were really getting worn out a lot, and I ended up taking 2 front tyres in my pit stop. And I think that paid dividends coming into the race. I had a lot more turn than the cars I was around, and managed to secure a podium position based on tyre life. But otherwise, yeah, it's really fairly negligible. Really, you can overheat the tyres a little bit by pushing too hard, but you just back off for half a lap or a lap, and they sort of cool down again, and you're back on the pace. So, but yeah, tyres generally not too much of an issue in this car.
I'll just interrupt there, Trent. We've got Martin Silvasi. He's had a bad accident. He's crab walking. He's in the pits now. He'll take his fast repair if he hasn't taken it already. But he seems to be sitting there for a little bit long, so he may have already used that fast repair. I didn't see the accident myself, but limped to the pits. Lost a lot of time.
As we'll go back and we'll have a look. Oh, he's already off there. Looks like he might have had a couple of offs. We'll go back a bit further.
We've also got Scott Goodman in the pits for a very long time. I would say he's got damage for the second time as well.
Yeah, it looks like he's 3 laps down at the moment as well. So we're just watching Martin now. Looks like he's just clipped that inside curb and straight into the path of another car. We actually saw that as our leader went past earlier. There goes Gary Hamilton now. So well, he looks like he is crabbing quite badly. Sorry to do this to you, Martin. But while you're on screen, we'll have a look at the driver profile. Martin Slavasi, position 7 in the championship. We saw Scott Goodman in 6th earlier, so 6th and 7th have had a bit of trouble this race, so it's a shame to see that. 10 starts, 2 top 5s and 2 top 10s for Martin, with a 4th at Road Atlanta. So it's a shame to see those two come to grief.
Yeah, these cars are notorious for when you do get in trouble. They're very hard to correct. If you put a tyre over the curb or you put a bit on the grass and accelerate too quick, it's a very hard car to gain control. Whereas you've got the V8, you slide a little, you've got a little bit of time, what seems to be a little bit of time. In these, they're so quick to respond to whatever inputs you do, it's very hard to recover.
We just see our leader Gary Hamilton coming to the pits now. We'll keep an eye out for Craig Edwards. We see him in the background coming around the last corner.
Yeah, he's coming around.
He's going to be at pace, so it'll be interesting to see what happens down to the first turn. Gary Hamilton might be able to hold on. Position the car perfectly, and Craig could not get around, so staying out those extra couple of laps seems to have worked, and Gary Hamilton has made up a position on Craig Edwards.
Yeah, the title contender Marcelo. He's in position 7, so he's making up some positions, and I think we'll see him make up a couple more before the race is out. Although we don't have too many laps to go.
Yeah, well, the cars ahead of him aren't too far ahead. We can see Josh Rogers and Mitchell McLeod up ahead of him, who have pretty much been nose to tail the entire race, swapping positions. And Josh Rogers is ahead in that battle at the moment. As we look a bit further back in our field,
They're definitely not going to get out of the way for him because there's a big battle going on here.
oh, definitely not. And races are races, and that's pretty much what's going to happen. They're just going to race, and if he wants to get around, he's going to have to. Oh,
Oh, did we see Craig have a crash
yes,
there?
Craig's just had a crash.
Oh no, that's really bad luck for Craig. I must say, he seems to take it well, though. I've just seen his little comment there. It's just saying, "Oh my."
Looks like he's done almost identical crash to Riley Preston that we saw earlier in the race. Almost identical, hitting that little that bump, and that pretty much it did it for him. So we'll see whether or not he can get that fast repair, get back out on track. But that certainly takes pressure off Gary Hamilton at the front now, with a 5-second lead over Troy Burgess.
Yeah, we've still got Martin still in the pits as well. So I think his race is pretty much done. Scott Goodman as well. Those guys must have had some pretty bad accidents.
We just saw there Josh Burden was probably borderline blocking that move he just did to Scott Newton there, but he did, to his defence, he did make the one move and he didn't move back again, so it's probably just a little bit late to move to the inside line. But certainly a pretty good battle going on here at the moment. As you look at the previous lap time, must have just taken a while to update. Maybe I wasn't looking at live photos.
So this has played out well for Troy Burgess. He's currently in position 2. He's doing well. He had a couple of good results. It's sort of played into his hands. Bit of luck, like I said before. You need a little bit of luck, especially on a track like this.
Yeah, well, he made that early pit stop, and he's certainly making it work for him now. Either way, he was in 3rd position. When he pitted, he was actually in 5th place, so he had made it 2 positions, and obviously with the unfortunate accident from Craig Edwards, has boosted him up into 2nd place, with Michael McCabe, sorry, in 3rd place. The top 3 are actually quite spread out, which is not something we normally see in this series, but a few different circumstances obviously led to that.
Yeah, look, just looking at Michael McCabe. I mean, winner of Split 2 last week, I think it was, to 3rd in Split 1. I mean, this is where he should be.
Exactly, we just saw Marcelo trying to make a move on Josh Rogers into turn 1 there. Couldn't quite make it stick. Going to be stuck on the outside around here. Managed to hold it. Josh gave him room there, so it was great racing between the two of them.
Yeah, Marcelo desperately trying to get as many points as he can to, I guess, or to lower the damage of Gary winning this race. A little bit of contact there between Marcelo as well, just getting a little bit of a tap from the car behind.
Yeah, hopefully that hasn't damaged either of their cars and they can continue racing. But that move that Marcelo's done has broken up the Mitchell McLeod, Josh Rogers battle that was going on. As we can see there, Mitchell McLeod's got a pretty sizable gap now between himself and Marcelo in 5th position. A 109.1 was the lap time on that last lap for Marcelo, and Mitchell McLeod was a 108.3, so he lost 0.8 of a second on that single lap.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, if you just go ahead and get in the draft and don't battle too much, you can actually make up time. But once you start a little battling, you just lose so much time.
Those drivers are going to have to be careful running wide on that corner. They only get a total of 20 incident points, iRacing call them, per race, otherwise they get disqualified. For those viewers who aren't quite sure what that means, an incident point are assigned to drivers for certain things that happen. So if they run wide on a corner and they hit the dirt or the grass, they get what they call a one by, which is one incident point. If they lose control, or I think if they hit a wall, I think that counts as just contact or a spin, and they get 2 points. And if they make contact with another car, that is 4 points. So if they accumulate 20 of those points, they will get disqualified from the race.
I think Joshua K. Rogers on the last lap gave Marcelo another little hurry-up tap, but Joshua almost made the same mistake as we've seen a couple of drivers do coming onto the pit straight and just hitting that little curb, got a little bit sideways, almost lost control, but managed to maintain control.
Yeah, we did see that little bit of a squiggle as he come onto the main straight there. He certainly, Marcelo's not getting away from him, and we've seen Josh before. He has done a lot of tin tot racing. He just seems to have a lot of pace through that corner where he's given Marcelo those couple of love taps. But yeah, it's good to see that they're still racing hard, and hopefully they're enjoying them and not getting upset.
Yeah, looking just behind those two, Joshua and Marcelo, you got Justin Strickland from Team X-Ray. Him and Mark Rayner probably going to take out the team's championship. This is what they do. They just sit there and they just be consistent. You know, probably getting a fair few top tens between them, and that's all they have to do.
Yeah, that's right. We see Mark Rayner in ninth and Justin Strickland in seventh. So both cars there in the top 10 is certainly a really good result. We see David Pegler from GNT Racing in eighth position, just behind Justin. He's splitting the two Team X-Ray cars at the moment.
Yeah, Craig Edwards just behind them, but unfortunately for Craig in position 22, so that elusive win is going to be elusive for at least another week.
You certainly can't help feel for the guy after doing the amount of laps he did in practice, and the sheer pace that he obviously showed, and to just come off that corner and like it was, you saw it was the slightest sort of wheel off in that ditch, but we've seen it bite two cars tonight, so unfortunate for Craig tonight, but hopefully he'll learn and move on, and that win will come. Who knows what he'll be able to do at Suzuka next week.
Yeah, we've chatted about it, about racing in the moment and how much the pressure is. I mean, you can want it too much. I mean, sometimes you've just got to sit to yourself and think, you know, I'm happy with second, or I'm happy with third, or I'm happy where I am. Sometimes you just want it that bad that you start to overdrive and drive above your ability. I'm not saying that Craig's done that here, but it does happen, and that can start playing on your mind, and you can start making all kinds of mistakes.
This car also, it doesn't like to be overdriven. I guess you can say that about most cars, but it is quite easy to overdrive the car, and you'll start compensating by pushing even harder, and that's when the mistakes start happening. The car tends to like to just flow. Um, in the few laps of practice that I'd done this week as well, the car can get quite, it does slide around a little bit. I don't know whether it's because of the bumps or the track surface, but for a car with the downforce level that it has, it does slide quite well, and it's quite fun, especially around this tight little track. It's certainly a different track that we're used to over the last few rounds. We've seen high speed tracks, whereas this one's a lot more low speed. It's still got that flowing nature. It's just sort of a bit narrow and a lower average speed.
It's very hard to describe the feeling of a win in these kind of cars, and not just these cars, but any series really. I mean, I still remember my first win in MX-5. It took me a long time to get it, and I was so excited about it. You put a lot of pressure on yourself to get that first win. Even if you had a win in a different series, every other series that you go into, you still put that pressure on yourself. And Craig was in that role. He was in that position at that time, and maybe he just put a little bit more pressure on himself than he needed to.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're just watching a battle now. Josh Burden, Mark Rayner, and Scott Newton. Quite close racing. Looks like Josh is going to get that move done uh, and move complete. This battle of four cars is quite tight, and they're certainly racing very tight and clean. Yeah, going back to the race win thing, yeah, it's an elusive sort of goal. I think it's pretty sought after in this series as well, given the level of the competition and how close everything is. The fixed setup, everyone's on a level playing field, so to speak. It's all about driver and what you can do, and even those drivers that take a win in Split 2 for this series, they really love and they covet a win in the second split as well as the first one.
A top 10 result is a great achievement in the split one in this series. A while ago, you'd be looking at top 5 was a great achievement, but now you're looking top 10 as a great achievement.
Yeah, the level of competition, it seems to go up every season. Not only are we sort of attracting new drivers every week, but it's also the current drivers we have are improving more and more each week as well, and yeah, it just increases the level of competition that we see throughout the entire field, really.
Scott Goodman's come to a halt on the straight. Actually, he's just escaped and he's gone to the pits. I didn't see what happened to him, but something around the pit straight there. Maybe another casualty of that pit straight.
Go back and we'll see if we can catch that on a replay. And I've just got him sitting in the pits there, so I'm not sure what happened to Scott there. We'll go up the front and have a look at Gary Hamilton. He's got a comfortable 5.8 second lead out the front here. He's lapping 108.2 was his last lap. Troy Burgess in second position was a 108.7, so 5/10 of a second on that last lap for Gary over Troy. So that gap's just ever increasing. From Troy, we look back at Michael McCabe, who's a further 8 seconds back from there. So, although on that last lap, Gary lost half a second to Troy, so the times are there or thereabouts. Must have had a little bit of a moment. So there's Troy and Michael McCabe, as we said, third position. He's actually got Mitchell McLeod has left Marcelo Rivera, Justin Strickland, Josh Rogers, that group back there, and he's back on to Michael McLeod's. Michael McCabe, too many Michaels and McCabes and Max, etc. Mitchell McLeod's right on the back of Michael McCabe, fighting for that third position for the podium with 2 laps to go.
Great battle between Joshua K. Rogers and Justin Strickland. They've been swapping positions. Joshua seems to be getting in all types of battles tonight. It's really good to see.
He certainly, you can see the car squirming around a lot. He might be suffering a little bit of that overdrive that we spoke about, but oh, that's close. Certainly some good close racing between these guys. And that's going to, Justin Strickland's just run wide, and that's going to allow David Pegler to move up. And he does. Hopefully he can make that move stick, and we see Craig Edwards, I believe, is behind him. But he's not in this battle for position.
Yeah, you could just see David playing a really smart game there for a couple of laps, just sitting back, watching these guys do battle in front, which allowed him to get closer because the battle was slowing them down, and just waited for that one opportunity to slide right by, and he's done that.
And I think I might have forgot to go back to live pictures again. Yeah, Gary Hamilton is our winner.
What's that, win number 3 or 4 for Gary?
I'm not sure about that one. So as we see Gary now crossing the line for that win. Well done to Gary for another win.
Yeah, look, he makes that little bit more gap on Marcelo, but Marcelo really did some pretty good damage control tonight from where he started. I think we saw him in 12th at one stage. So the damage isn't as bad as what it could have been.
It looks like we must have lost Mitchell McLeod at some point. He's dropping down the order now. Yeah, Marcelo's come home in 4th place. We'll go back and we'll see if we can find a replay of what's happened to Mitchell McLeod. So as we see him coming out of the last turn, and number 3, the exact same thing that we've seen happen to 2 other cars has just happened to Mitchell McLeod there. Almost copycat, exactly the same as those other 2 guys. So unfortunate there for Mitchell. He was definitely going to challenge for a podium position there.
And they're the ones we've actually picked up. I mean, there could be a lot more. We saw some people having trouble with that as well. Didn't bite them as much, but we did see people have a bit of trouble in that one spot. So quite a notorious little corner there.
No, it definitely is. And we'll go through our results now that the race has finished. And as we said, Gary Hamilton takes that win, first position for him tonight. Troy Burgess holds on for 2nd place, and Michael McCabe rounds out our podium with the 3rd. Marcelo Rivera comes home 4th. Josh Rogers in 5th position. So I think Josh is on debut tonight, so it was good to see him with the top 5. It was certainly a pretty strong battle between himself, David Pegler, Justin Strickland towards the end of that race. Joshua Burden in 8th place, Mark Rayner 9th, and Scott Newton rounds out our top 10. In 11th we have AJ Bear, 12th was Grant Hines, 13th was David Jellings, 14th we had Joseph Falcamata, 15th Paul Tajavara, 16th TJ Brown, 17th Damien Carr, 18th Phil Gadd, 19th we saw Mitchell McLeod there, unfortunate accident right near the end. Sean Watts, 20th place, 1 lap down. Dylan Francis, didn't see what happened to him, but he finished a lap down in 21st. Craig Edwards also a lap down in 22nd place. Jason Bentz in 23rd, a lap down. And I think these next few guys will be our DNFs with Paul Gorrell, Simon Fiegel, Scott Goodman, Martin Slavasi, Hayden Dodman, and Riley Preston. We saw go out early on in the race in 29th place. Bit of an action-packed race there for a short track there, Andrew.
Absolutely. Look, I've just reading some of the comments there. Dylan Francis from GT Racing was commenting on some massive net code that Hayden Bodman had. So I don't know if that was a result of Dylan Francis's result there. I don't know if that had really impacted him or he's caught up in an incident, but I did see some really bad net code from Hayden Dodman's side.
Well, it looks like we've got our race winner, Gary Hamilton, down in ready for the interview. I might bring him up for a few questions.
User was moved to your channel.
G'day, Gary. Welcome to the Slipstream commentary box, mate. Again, another win for you. Congratulations. It looked like a ding-dong battle with yourself and Craig. Was going to brew there for that race, but unfortunately Craig made the slightest of mistake. We actually spotted 3 cars have the exact same issue on the exact same corner. Certainly unfortunate, and you breezed away to a relatively easy win there.
Yeah, Trent, thanks very much for that. Yeah, I was not expecting to win that one. Craig was very quick around here. So thinking about points there, I was pretty happy in second. However, in saying that, I did want to have a race, and basically all I could do was sort of sit there in the tow, and it's a bit of a catch-22 in this track because you get a little tow down the straight, but the aero push around the rest of the track doesn't really give you anything. So you got to get on it pretty hard. You got to try and stay with him, and I managed to bring him in, bring the gap in. I made a few mistakes and it was out, and I got it into about half a second before his pit, and then I thought, well, I might as well try something different, and we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, we did see. Oh, we did actually talk about during the race what we would do in your position. Would you sit back and just take second position for the points, or would you actually go for the win? And as you've just said, that you actually were going for the win. For the points. So it's I think you've got a fairly comfortable cushion now in the championship. So it's not looking likely that you'll get beaten. I won't say you won't, but it's looking pretty good for you at the moment, mate.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, good haul of points there. However, yeah, I think Marcello's not far away, and the points are, you don't lose much for a position, so I think he's still pretty close back there, and yeah, I think it depends on the size of the splits, I suppose. I think we're going to be all one split maybe for the last one, and if that happens, and if I have a DNF and he wins it, well, yeah, I can still quite easily lose it.
Actually, I forgot to take that into account that Suzuka does have 60 pit stalls, so the chances of a single split next week are probably higher than most. So that's yeah, something to definitely keep into account. The track this week, we've been used to sort of the higher speed flowing sort of tracks, whereas this is sort of a bit twisty, a bit bumpy. What did you think of the car on this track for this week?
Yeah, well, obviously this fixed set is not, it's not perfect for you, but that's okay. It's all the same for everyone. Um, as you know, you talked about it, and everyone knows the track is quite bumpy, and some particular lines are worse than others. I suppose the big one with this set is that the front tyres go off pretty bad. Like qualifying really is just a one lap one straight out of the box when the fronts are nice. You can get it on your second one, but after that, the fronts just get worked too hard, and you've just got no front grip. So basically, you just got to keep slowing the car up enough, get the turn in nice, and then get on the pair as normal. But definitely a lot more front wear here than anywhere else.
Just watching an onboard on your car at the moment, you can actually hear the tyre scraping across the road. So that it was touched on during the race that there is a little bit of sliding and stuff on this car on this track. So it's definitely you can hear it, and as you've mentioned, the tyres have obviously gone off. I must pass you over to Andrew to see if he's got any further questions.
Hey Gary, congratulations again, mate. Good to see you get another win. Is that 3 or 4 this season, mate? You've been super consistent in the last couple of rounds, so well done.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. I think that's 3 for this one.
I'm losing count already, mate. It's been that many. Mate.
Well, I'll have one more. One more would be nice.
It would be nice to finish the season off like that. Were you really surprised to see Marcelo down the order in qualifying?
Yeah, look, in the I didn't even realise until we did quali, and I just assumed he was in the other group because I didn't see his name up the front. So it wasn't until I had a bit of a scan down and I saw his name, and I was like, oh, gee. So I wasn't disappointed, I'll tell you that much.
No, we were really, I guess, excited and worried because obviously we don't want anybody going off track or losing a championship because of a first corner bingle. So it would have been great to see you guys battle. Obviously the championship's not over, that still anything can happen, and we're all mindful of that, but you still had that great battle with Craig. He obviously put a lot of time in, and our heart goes out to him because he drove really well. Just a simple mistake anybody could have made.
Yeah, I think anyone who's driven this track has done exactly that. You drop that wheel just that fraction bit too much on the outside, and it's all over. And usually goes to the inside wall, so you'll cop damage as well. But yeah, Craig was super quick. In the practice session, like my best lap that I'd done was still over half a tenth, maybe a tenth off of what he ripped out there in qualifying. So I followed him a bit in practice too, and I knew he was consistently quick. So yeah, I did that. I decided not to come in. We had a nice little buffer. If I had someone close, I was just going to follow him in and be happy with sitting in his toe and holding on to second. But we had a nice gap, so I thought, why not try something different and just try to put a good couple of laps in. They weren't too bad. They weren't the best. I honestly didn't think I'd get out in front of him. So when I did, I thought, oh, this is good, and I was all prepared to give it my best, defensive couple of laps. But as it turned out, it wasn't required.
Yeah, that was the thing I was going to touch on. Well, your pit strategy worked really well. Was it a pit strategy, or did you just make that decision when you thought it was right to pit?
Well, yeah, I had thought about it before the race. Obviously, I was more than happy. I knew Craig was going to be quick and consistent, so I was happy to sit in there. He might have seen at the start. I didn't challenge him at all. I wanted to build that buffer. I knew he could do consistent, clean laps just in clean air. So yeah, I just sat in behind him. and then the guys battled a bit. We pulled a bit of a gap, and then I started thinking, okay, well maybe I can race him, and I thought, why not just whatever he does, I'll just do something different. So yeah, when I saw him get in, I thought I'll just try my best in clean air this time, because I'd been in the dirty air the whole time, and just put a few consistent laps in, and yeah, like I said, I was a bit surprised that I came out in front there, only just, but I was in front.
It's always a gamble, isn't it? Because I'm not very good at multitasking. So if I'm racing, I can't really tell if I'm going to pit and come out in traffic or not. Did you know that you were going to come out in traffic, or did you know you were going to come out in clean air, or was it just a bit of a gamble at that time?
No, just a gamble. I don't have any sort of data up to show me where I'll come out or anything like that, but we were pretty close to the end of the window anyway, so yeah, a majority of people would have already pinned. I thought we were going to be pretty clean.
So we're off to Suzuka next Thursday. Are you excited about that? Have you done many laps at Suzuka? Have you raced there before? Have you done another series there before? And what are your thoughts on the track?
Yeah, love that place. Incredible track. Once again, back to that high speed, fast flowing track. Bar the last chicane and the hairpin, of course. So I think it's gonna suit this car definitely. I have done a race there before in the Star Mazda. I think it was on the old SMAC, or it might have even been the SMAC series. And as you can imagine, I'm sure it's going to be another toe fest for sure.
Yeah, it looks going to be really exciting. I think I don't know. I think being the finale, everybody wants to win a race. There's no drama there. But if you've got a field of 60 cars and you've got the season finale, there's maybe that little bit more. I want to win that race. So I think we'll see a lot of hungry people next week.
Yeah, as long as they're not too hungry from behind me, I'll be being pretty careful there, I think.
Yeah, mate. Look, good luck for next week. It's going to be an exciting race. Really good to watch you. Great for the win, mate. Do you want to have a shout out to your sponsors and say hi to anyone?
Yeah, thanks again, Andy. Just another shout out there for Will's book. Obviously, got the paint job all over the car there. I still haven't actually read it all yet, and I'm only about halfway through. But it's pretty cool so far, and there's it's interesting to read, even though I personally know him, and it's still good to go back and read what he went through to get where he is. So yeah, shout out for his book. Get down the bookstore and hook yourself up, or an ebook. That's what I did, because I'm a bit tight.
Great Christmas gift.
Yeah, there you go. Great Christmas gift.
I know Santa's bringing me one.
Yeah, good.
Hey,
I think
wake
I've
up.
heard that from a few people, so I'm sure Will be delighted to hear that.
Great job, mate.
Well
Thanks,
done,
guys.
Harry. Cheers.
User was moved out of your channel.
I might bring race control up next to have a bit of a chat, and we'll see what the race was like from their perspective.
User was moved to your channel. User was moved to your channel.
Welcome to the commentary box, Scott Connors and Scott Stevens, our race controllers for tonight. Guys, how did the race go from your perspective?
Oh, it was pretty good. I had control of the top split, and Scotty had control of the second split. Fairly clean race. We're trialing a new way we issue our drive-through penalties this evening. I think we in both splits had issues with drivers not complying and not seeming to be able to hear our voice comms, which was a bit of an issue, which we came across. But so there'll be something we'll have to look and have a discussion about how we handle that next week, and because this is really just a trial to see what would work and what wouldn't. So other than that, it was pretty good race, pretty clean race, and seems that Gary came out with on top.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Gary did get a good result tonight. It's a shame what happened to Craig there after his pit stop, but we actually caught 3 separate cars have the exact same accident during that race. So certainly a corner to watch out for if we happen to visit here in the future.
Yeah, oh, you go.
No, you go.
Yeah, that was at the hairpin, wasn't it?
No, the final corner.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there was a few incidents coming out of there. Most of them were no one's fault. except for the race, pretty
Hey,
much.
wake
But
up.
there's a fair few incidents at the hairpin too that caused a few issues, but other than that, it was pretty good.
Okay, and Scott Stevens, I believe you looked after Split 2 tonight. How was the racing and the etiquette down there?
Racing was actually quite good tonight. I was really actually quite proud of the Split 2 guys. We had, I think, 2 drive-through penalties issued off the top of my head, it was. One for avoidable contact. Well, actually, both for avoidable contact, and then one wasn't a follow-up on the pit lane penalty, so they actually got a hold for 30 seconds in pit lane for not doing their drive-through penalty within the 3 required laps. But it's actually really positive. Good to see that guys were giving each other plenty of room on the opening laps, and throughout the race, like just driving respectfully around others. So it was really, really good.
That's definitely good to hear. The new penalty issuing system that Scott spoke about just before, how did that go for you?
It was when it was announced, it was positive. The feedback straight away was good. So I guess realistically, though, guys need to be aware of situations before they enter the race server, and that may mean checking the forums and seeing any updates to any rules and regulations before they go in. And if they didn't have voice chat enabled, then maybe that's you know, as we said, we ran it as a trial, and it might be something that has to be looked at again, but as a trial for next round as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's as you said, positive feedback will be good, and obviously we respect all the feedback from all the drivers that participate in the series, and that's one thing SMAC's always done is it's always an open forum. If there's something that can be done better, then we like to try and do that, and it goes the same for any of these minor changes that we try to place, just to try and make the experience better for everybody.
Yeah, and you know, you and I have chatted throughout this today before the race, and feedback, whether it be constructive or not, is always good, because as a person hosting a series, you don't know whether or not you're doing the right thing by people within the league, and they may be feeling that you are or aren't, but unless they kind of voice their opinion, you don't know how you can improve. So feedback's definitely good to have, and I'm pretty sure that you guys from G&T Racing are more than happy to take it on board and then put into practice or put into place, you know, procedures and whatnot to for that feedback.
No, you're exactly right there. All right, thanks for Scott and Scott for race control. You're sort of unsung heroes, I guess, week in, week out of the Star Maz Australian Series. So we certainly appreciate the efforts that you guys put in.
And thanks to you guys for broadcasting every week. It's really appreciated.
Just glad that it actually worked as a live stream this week.
Yeah, mate, it's good seeing it on the
Good
feed.
work. Good work.
At least your ISP won't get an abusive phone call now.
That's true, true. Thanks a lot, guys.
User was moved out of your channel. User was moved out of your channel.
All right, we got one more driver down there. I don't think it would be a slipstream telecast without speaking to Scott Newton after a SMAC race.
User was moved to your channel.
As we welcome Scott Newton to the slipstream commentary box, mate, how did your race go out there tonight?
Yeah, hey Trent. To be honest, it wasn't too bad. Qualified 16th, which obviously probably wasn't the best I could do, given the fact that I was a lot quicker in practice on Monday. But had a little moment going into turn 4 and lap 1, so I lost pretty much my position and went all the way to back. And yeah, just had to pit early and try and salvage a top 10, which I managed to do.
Well, it's certainly top tens, as we know. Oh, whoops. Top 10, as we know, is actually quite hard to get into in this series, so it's certainly an achievement in itself just to get that top 10.
Yeah, definitely, especially with the fact that I was struggling a little bit with the setup, and with the weather as well. With the setup being not as friendly with this track as compared to other weeks, but yeah, it was the same for everyone, which is always a good thing. Keep it fair.
Andrew, any questions for Scott this week?
Yeah, look, well done, Scott. I know we chatted a little bit before the race, and you were concerned
Hey,
about
wake up.
what qualifying time you did. But to put it in perspective, I mean, you're looking at just over half a second between, I guess, pole and where you were sitting. So it's super competitive, and it only takes that one tiny error. And you don't get many laps to put down a banker either. I mean, you get 4 laps, is pretty much it. So if you're not on, you know, 100% of your game, or you're just unlucky, it's really going to impact you. But you did well in the end, kept it clean. We saw a lot of accidents. Was there anywhere in the track that you were particularly worried about or had some trouble with?
Yeah, to be honest, I think I had a little bit of trouble going into turn 2, that fast little left-hander, and mainly the braking zone for turn 4. Just the fact that I'm not running loads of pedals at the moment. It's very hard to judge exactly where the tires will just start to lock up to get maximum braking. And I was having a little bit of connection issues, so it's like the people in front of me would like disappear for a second and then come straight back, and they would be in different positions. So it's sort of difficult for me to judge exactly where to be and not hit them at the same time.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things, and one of the most difficult things about, I guess, iRacing and virtual racing is when that happens. It's not only a thing that you can't see, or you can see happening in front of you. It's on your mind as well. You just don't know what's going to happen. And we've seen it before. We saw Dylan Francis. He was a victim tonight of netcode that Hayden Dodman had, and I saw a bit of Hayden Dodman's netcode, and it was really bad. You just don't know if that's going to happen, and sometimes you're lucky, and sometimes you're not. So it's a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, definitely. It's generally pretty good, given that we're running on obvious servers, but obviously, a connection to the server can obviously impact a couple of people, and it's obviously unfortunate that it can happen at times.
You mentioned you were struggling with turn 2, and you actually mentioned that to me before you actually went into the race. Did you see a lot of people? I mean, there's quite a big area there that you can run through on turn 2, and I think people can use that to their advantage a little bit without getting an off track. Did you see many people doing that?
To be honest, I think there were people that may have taken advantage of it, but to be honest, I didn't see them because I pitted on lap 3 or the end of lap 2, so I was kind of at the back and trying to catch everyone back up without losing much time. There was one little moment that I had going off the back corner that I caught a little bump, and it actually shot the car up and sort of unsettled it a bit, so you can gain a little bit there, but can obviously fire you off into one of the walls, so you can gain a little bit of time, but it's probably best to just keep it on the curb rather than running off it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we did mention during the broadcast was how bumpy this track is, and those bumps can really change the dynamics of the car when turning. If you're putting on a little bit of power through those bumps, the front end starts to jump a little bit, and your turn radius gets a lot wider, so you start to push out a bit. Did you find that happening quite a bit?
Yeah, to be honest, I found it was quite prevalent today, just going through sector 2. Just over the turn 4 curb, and then through that slow little section between 5, 6, and 7. It was probably the worst, but just one thing to not hit the curves and cause that pogo effect, so get the fastest lap time.
Yeah, that's right. So thumbs up, thumbs down for this track. We haven't been here before. What do you think?
Bit of a mix, really, to be fair. I haven't raced here probably before Monday night in the official practice. I probably haven't raced here since MX5 days, so it's quite a bit different, obviously, with the speeds and that sort of thing. But yeah, to be honest, it's sort of a middle ground for me, I think, rather than love it or hate it. So
How you feeling about Suzuka? Are you excited about Suzuka?
yeah, definitely. I'm confident that I'll do quite well at Suzuka, given that I do a lot of testing there in the F1, and it's a circuit I'm quite familiar with. So yeah, it should be a good race next week.
Yeah, I think we've been here once before. I wasn't involved then, as I think I was taking a break, but I remember talking to Trent about it, and it was one of the biggest showings that we've had in SMAC in one race. Obviously, that helps with the amount of pit stalls we've got there. It was like 60 drivers or something. It was quite a spectacle, and I think the viewing, I think RRTV were doing the coverage at that time. I think it got the most views out of every other race that we've ever had. So we're really looking forward to the broadcast of that. It should be a great race.
Yeah, for sure. It's obviously great to have as many drivers on track. So yeah, it should be an exciting spectacle, and yeah.
Well, mates, look, it's still a good result. Always good to have a chat. Really wish you the best of luck for next week. Hope to see you there. Do you want to have a quick shout out to your sponsors?
Yeah, cheers, Andy. I'd like to thank Apex Racing Academy and Apex Racing UK for all their support. I'd also like to thank St Peter's PC Systems and to Leopold and Sim Steering.
Thanks a lot, Scott, and well done on your top 10 again tonight.
No worries, cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Right, take care.
User was moved out of your channel.
We've got one more driver interview to do tonight, and that would be our
User was
usual
moved to your channel.
race controller, Josh Burden from JFF Racing. How did your race go tonight, Josh? Come home in 8th position by the looks there.
Yeah, mate, pretty happy with that. Considering I haven't raced this car in about 2 months, yeah, happy with that. Had a pretty eventful race, really. I first lap made up a couple of positions, and then had a bit of racing incident with AJ Bear there, so I pitted earlier than I had planned. Yeah, and then come out the pits and racing with Mark Rayner and Scotty Newton, and just picking off spots as people crashed or whatever happened to them. And yeah, finished 8th, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, we did see you in some pretty heated battles with Mark Rayner and Scott Newton, especially towards the end of the race. Yeah, certainly some close racing, and obviously got through it unscathed, and you come out ahead of those two, which is obviously a good result for you. I believe you're sort of fairly late entering the session tonight, were you?
Yeah, that's right. I only done 4 laps practice, and I was actually to qualify 18th after 4 laps practice. I was actually pretty happy with that. So yeah.
Yeah, we did see a lot of sort of the top drivers, I guess, were a little bit down the field as well. For tonight, we saw Marcelo Rivera was in 11th, for instance, so you weren't alone in the company there in the top split. 29 cars should have been in the race tonight, and which is probably a fair few cars for a small little track like this. It's the first time we've raced here, as Andrew touched on earlier in a previous interview. First time that the Star Mazda Australian Championship has been here. Your thoughts on the track, whether or not it should be raced again?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's very hard on the car and all that, but provides close racing. So I think it should be used again. To be honest, yeah, the straight's just long enough for the draft to come into effect, and if you send it at turn 1, you can normally have a move pay off.
I know the series organisers do like to try and put in a free track or two in the season, just so that it's not expected that everyone has to pay for tracks every season, as we switch around the schedule. So there aren't really many free road courses to race on, but certainly as the vote goes, as we come towards the end of the season, looking for season 5, I'm sure it'll be one of the ones on the short list to go ahead. Andrew, have you got any questions for Josh?
Yeah, well done, mate. It was good to see you back in the car. I guess my main question was it the track tonight that made you jump back in the car, or were you just seen such good racing over the series that you wanted to have another go?
Bit of both, to be honest. I was interested to see how I'd go because I haven't raced, like I said, since Bathurst. So part of that, and yeah, like track provides close racing. Yeah, so it's a bit of both, to be honest.
Yeah, I think over the last probably four rounds, we've seen some amazing racing, and we're not seeing silly moves. Did you feel really confident going into this race that you could race hard and race fairly and not have to worry about people making silly mistakes?
Yeah, I did. Especially the people I was actually racing, they were very good. They wouldn't chuck it up the inside where you wasn't expecting it to, and if there was a bit of a moment where the person behind you thought was going to get a bit dicey here, they'd actually back out and let you slot back in if you had to. So that was good.
Yeah, it's something that we don't see in this series very often, and that's people driving above their talent level. Everyone sort of seems to know what level they're at and where they should yield and where they can actually make a gap. We've seen people sit back and just wait for that perfect moment to really study where they can actually make a pass and then go for it at that point. A lot of other series we don't see that. We just see people throwing it up where they can, think there's a gap, there's no gap. So it's a really testament to the driving abilities and the talent of the field.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. There was a couple of little incidents throughout the field, but generally speaking, and it's like I said, every round the racing's generally pretty clean. So for a car that the tow had such a big effect on, it's actually, in a way, it's surprising that the racing's so clean, and I think the live race control definitely has something to do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Race control, they do a fantastic job, and you know they're not over the top. They're very fair. You know, everyone makes a bad call every now and then. I've had a few against me with in this series myself, but you know it happens to everyone, and you've got to make that call at that particular point. And some people aren't happy with it, some people are, but it does give an extra element to the series.
Yeah, that's it. Yes. Obviously, people, if they get a penalty, they're going to be not too happy about it. But after the race, if they look at the incident and they go, "Oh yeah, that's fair," you know, 90% of the time they won't argue it. So,
If there was a track that you could throw into season 5, what would it be?
Oran Park.
What was that? Sorry.
Oran Park. I love Oran Park. Definitely, it's very much like Summit Point.
Yeah, actually, you're probably bang on. I'm not too sure if we've raced there, have we, Trent?
Yeah, we've raced there in a couple of seasons in the past, and it generally has put on some pretty good racing. Yeah, it's certainly tight. It's very bumpy in parts, and yeah, I'll go with what Josh said. It's probably very Summit Point like with the twistiness, the tightness, and the bumps and stuff. And I think it is a pretty good track in this car.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Summit Point track, I think it's very much like Winton in a way. So for it to have a run on a track that we don't actually have, to get as close as you can to it, I think we should keep it, to be honest.
Yeah, the tracks that we're racing on, like Summit Point, for instance, where it would be pretty difficult to. I mean, the V8s do race here in iRacing, and it is a good track to race on. But you know, you can get 3 cars wide here in certain parts, and you all give each other just that little bit of room. The car goes exactly where you need it and where you want it to go and where you expect it to go. So you aren't making those mistakes or getting out of control. So you can really have some consistent, great racing on a predominantly narrow track. So you're going to be at Suzuka next week?
I'm not 100% sure. We'll see how it's all going in the race control department. And in the first season when I ran full time, I had a great race at Suzuka, so we'll see how we go.
I'm pretty sure you lost to me that race, didn't you?
Oh, are you sure about that? I don't know.
Pretty sure it was my one and only victory in this in this series.
Is that why you always talk about it? You always go on about Suzuka. And I was wondering why.
I have to.
That sounds about right.
It's my claim to fame.
Hollywood.
You
No,
know
great,
it.
mate. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But yeah, look, good to see you back in the car again. Hopefully, either way, we'll see you at Suzuka next week. Do you want to have a shout out to anyone in particular?
Yeah. Before I go, GT Omega. For any sim gear, go to GT Omega Racing-anz.com, and I'm sure they can sort you out.
Right, thanks a lot, Josh. Congratulations on a pretty good result for you tonight. You said you qualified 18th, finished 8th, so yeah, well done, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll do. Cheers, mate.
User was moved out of your channel.
Alrighty, that's our drive interviews done. Andrew, it's that time of the night again to pick the driver of the night. So did you have anyone sort of really tick the boxes for you?
Mate, I've thought long and hard about this, and I'm going to break the mold. I'm going to break all tradition here, and I'm going to go for a team. And that team to me will be Team X-Ray, Justin Strickland and Mark Rayner. They're just doing exactly what you need to do to take out the team championship. They're not battling, making mistakes. I mean, they're battling, but they're not taking unnecessary risks. They're just scoring those points. They're increasing their gap. I think they've been a really great team. Come third in the championship a couple of seasons ago. I think they're obviously hot favourites to take it out this season. I think they're going to be untouchable.
Yeah, that's a good point. Finished 7th and 9th in tonight's race. Again, so another solid result for them guys. And I think that's just going to pretty much cement that points team championship for them. We'll certainly confirm that over the next few days and get the point score up in the thread on the forums. To me, I wanted to give it to Craig Edwards, not so much for driver of the night, but just the sheer amount of effort and he's put in for this week. He certainly had the pace, except for that unfortunate incident late in the race that we saw when he was battling Gary Hamilton. So I definitely want to give a shout out to Craig Edwards for pretty much driver of the week, I'd guess you'd call it, rather than driver of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, heart goes out to him, and we're going to see him take a win. There's no doubt about that. It's just a matter of when. I hope he can do it next week. We'll see. I hope he can do it.
Yep, that's definitely true. Looking ahead, as mentioned, we are at Suzuka International Racing Course Grand Prix layout for round 12, the season finale of SMAC Season 4. Keep an eye on the forums because we will start putting up information and requests for Season 5 and what we want going forward, as well as any sort of Week 13 fun events. If anyone has ideas for those, we'll be putting up a thread for ideas for what we can run in Week 13. So yeah, we should be a good race around there. We'll see. We had 58 cars registered for tonight. Suzuka holds 60, so it'd be good to see if we can get that sort of participation again for next race. So I think that's probably about wraps us up for tonight. We'd like to thank you for watching. On behalf of Andrew Gaines, I'm Trent Thomas. You've been watching Slipstream, and we'll see you next week for the Star Master Australian Championship season finale.